Hello everybody, welcome to the new episode 27 of the Stephen King podcast. In this podcast we will bring you the latest news and we will finish off season 4 of Haven. We still have 3 episodes and we're doing that after the news. So if you haven't seen them yet, you might want to do that before you listen to the rest. But first, let's get the news.
Welcome, welcome. Do not fear the door that lies before you. We will protect you. We are your guides, Hans and Lou, and we will give you the latest in Stephen King news. But before we do so, you must prove yourself worthy. You must open the door and join us in the death room.
And the first item on news today is that Under the Dome will start recording their second season in January. And those of you who have followed our podcast knows pretty well what Lou and I think about Under the Dome. But the thing that makes us still believe in this series and actually give us some hope, even if it's small. King himself, that should be interesting. See if he can save what they destroyed in the last season.
I don't know. That's a pretty tall order. I don't know if that's gonna. I mean, how much influence can you have on one series with one episode? It'll be interesting to see. And we'd like to get some user feedback on opinions on the Under the Dome, because Hans and I have obviously been fairly down on it. But Variety has named it as the 2014 Breakthrough TV series winner, and I think it's more because CBS took the gamble on launching a high-profile show during the summer months as opposed to the dramatic qualities of the show itself. But, yeah, I mean, regardless of what we think of it, the show has been very successful for CBS from a ratings and monetary perspective. So, you got to give them credit for that. We can just hope that maybe they'll tighten up the storyline in the second season.
Get some better actors.
Not so much as writing, I think.
Yeah, but they need better actors.
Oh, well, it's hard to say until you see the actors work with good material, but I think they were asked to do some pretty impossible things. But
yeah. Well, I won't go into that more.
No.
No. And the next news is that the movie version of A Good Marriage is finished. It comes directly from Stephen King. He has posted on Twitter that I have seen the complete film version of A Good Marriage. I thought it was terrific. Of course, I wrote it. So he's a bit biased, but let's hope he's right. And I think if done right, this can be a great movie, I think. I love the story.
Absolutely. And with Joan Allen anchoring that cast, it has a good chance of being a good project. I'm really excited to see what they do with this story because it's a pretty cool story and something that I think to a certain degree, because of all the stuff we've seen on the news a lot, lately, I think people can relate to some of this crazy story. Because if you watch any reality crime shows or things of that nature, this is right out of the pages of one of those series. So we should be very interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Very excited about it.
Yep.
And turning to book news, we've got a longer description of Mr. Mercedes. And again, this sounds like Stephen King plumbing experiences. Traveling to Florida. We got Dr. Sleep, which was based on the Trailer People. And this time we're getting Mr. Mercedes. And this one is based on a news story he saw while on a hotel on the way to Florida. I believe it was on the way to Florida. It might have been a tour, but pretty sure it was a Florida trip. And he saw a news item about somebody that had driven a car into a McDonald's and killed a bunch of people. And this became the springboard for Mr. Mercedes, which deals with a person that drives into a bunch of people at a job fair. But it picks up from there that the cop that was on the case is now retired, and it's one of the cases that he just wishes that he could resolve. And he gets contacted by this killer who say he's going to do something even worse this time. So it sounds like a great premise for a story. I'm very, very curious to see, especially with Dr. Sleep, how he made us really like the villains in that story, the Rose and everybody. I wonder if he's going to try to do the same thing with the bad guy in this book. But it sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and it sounds like it will focus quite a lot on the bad guy. That sounds promising, I think.
Mm-hmm. And to go along with that, we have the cover of the book. Did we talk about this last podcast? I can't remember. But
No, I don't think we did.
Oh, okay. Because it's a very, very simple but very chilling cover. If you've seen it, it's just an umbrella with blood raining from the sky. And I think what creeps me out the most is the happy face sticker on the handle.
Yeah. I must say that this is one of my favorite covers, actually. Cool. I don't think I've liked the cover as much as I do this since, oh my God, I forgot the name of it. The guy who paints.
Plaid Chat. Oh, Drew Struzan.
Yeah, no, the character.
Terrible. I know, I can see it. It's with the boat and that, right?
Yeah. Talk about brain freeze.
What's that book called? Oh,
yeah,
that's terrible. Duma Key.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Well, I can't remember everything.
That's right.
But I really like that cover, and I think this is since then this is probably the best cover.
Cool.
It's simple but very effective, I think.
And what do you think of the cover for the paperback from Dr. Sleep?
Well, it's the British cover that we have seen, and that we also have a release date for, and it pretty much looked like the hardback from Harder and Stoughton with the cat on it. And if you read the story, the cat has a meaning in the story. Before I had read the book, I was a bit surprised to see the cat on the cover. I didn't really know what it meant. But as you know, it has a meaning in the book, so it makes perfect sense. And paperback, the British paperback, we get it again, and this time I'm not sure actually if in the ad for the paperback there's actually two covers. One is looking the same as the hardcover, and the other one is kind of flipped around, where the background is white instead of black, and the cat is black instead of white. So it's a matching pair.
Cool.
Yeah. So I actually like that one.
Okay.
Quite a lot. It's not as nice as Mr. Mercedes, but it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the paperback is out in May this year.
Okay.
In Britain. Yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. And for you people that shun social media, this next bit of news might get you to change your mind about joining the virtual crowd that's out there via either Facebook or whatnot. But the man himself, Stephen King, is on Twitter. He's been on since the beginning of December, and he started off saying, "My first tweet, I'm no longer a virgin, and be gentle." And then he followed that up a little while later saying, "On Twitter at last, and I can't think of a thing to say. Some writer I turned out to be." So that's pretty cool. I mean, he's, he tweets maybe once a week or something like that so far anyhow. Nothing major. There's a couple of interesting tweets there, but yeah, it's well worth it. You can never tell what he's going to tweet about down the line. He might get some interesting tweets about upcoming projects from him or whatnot, but he's just kind of tweeting about the regular day things that we do. Baseball, stuff like that, books he's read, movies he's seen. So that's kind of cool. And it's nice to have the man reaching out in a virtual method like this.
Yeah, I'm glad he's on Twitter. He doesn't strike me as a Twitter person, but I'm glad he's there. I think in the future we will get more tweets like when he tweeted that he had seen A Good Marriage, that the movie was finished. I think we will get these kind of first-hand information.
I hope so.
From Twitter. Yeah.
It's kind of nice to get him out there because Joe Hill is very active on Twitter, and Owen is to a lesser degree, and as well as his wife. I don't know if Tabitha's on or not. I know Naomi is. She's out there if you want to look for her. You can follow her as well, and she's also on Goodreads. It'd be great if Mr. King got on Goodreads and we could follow the books that he reads from there too. So hopefully that will come. And
Not too many social medias there. He still needs to write those books.
Well, he's got 2 books in the can. I think he can.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know how it is. If he starts, he can't stop, and then
he's got 2 books in the can. He's writing an episode of Under the Dome.
Yeah.
He just had a short story out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he can handle
Yeah. As long as we don't get the next book on Twitter.
it. Well, he might
140.
experiment with that, right? Here's my next book. It's 140 characters.
You will have finished it in 3 years.
Yeah, because he's got that Ernest Hemingway tweet about the baby shoes for sale, the shortest story ever. So
Yeah.
you might try to beat that.
Exactly. And the next last news we have is that ABC is developing Grand Central. This is a TV series based on the New York Times at the Special Bargain Rates. It must be one of the longer titles for King.
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's about a widower who gets a phone call from her husband from the other side. And this is a short story. It's a very good story, I think. But I have some problems seeing how they are going to expand it from this short story to a TV series. And generally, shows on ABC is like 24 episodes per season. So I don't know exactly how they are going to translate this one. But what's promising is that it's Sean Pillar, Lloyd Segan, and Scott Shepard, who are all producers of Haven, that's doing this. So we know that people behind it are good people. So hopefully they can do something good of it.
Well, we'll talk about how good they are when we get into our Haven review.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I think it sounds, if I had to guess, it sounds like it's going to be some sort of thing like The Sixth Sense or a Ghost Whisper or something like that.
Yeah.
There was a show on TV a couple of years ago that was very much like that, and I don't know if they're doing that with this. I hope they do something different, but we'll have to see what they come up with. And it could be something like the Dead Zone too, right? We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scheduled for summer 2014, so it might be a summer series as well.
All right.
One, maybe.
Well, we'll check it out. That's good. That'll give us something else besides Under the Dome to talk about this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Good for us.
All righty. So that is the news.
This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around, pick up stiffs or what?
It's time for reviews from the night shift.
Now we're going to move on to our review of the final 3 episodes of Season 4 of Haven. And those episodes were episodes 11, 12, 13, A Shot in the Dark, When the Bow Breaks, and Lighthouse. And let's talk about A Shot in the Dark by itself because it's different than the last 2 are really almost one episode, and they in fact aired on the same night. So A Shot in the Dark was the Ghostbusters reality style show.
Yeah.
What did you think of it, Hans?
Well, I kind of like Ghost Hunters. They were like a comedian intervention in the show. And I like the fact that they added werewolves kind of things.
Rougarou.
So yeah, exactly, Rougarou. I call them werewolves.
Okay.
It's easier. So and I liked it, and I think you can see that they are building for the ending of the season. So I find it a little bit hard to concentrate. It's okay. It's an okay episode, I think.
Yeah, I quite like the Dark Side Seekers, I believe they were called. The 2 guys with the reality show with their Scooby-Doo van with all the homemade ghosting equipment. And no, I'm not a big fan of this found footage style of shooting, this handheld jerky camera stuff. But I have to say that the first sequence that they shot in the store, I thought that was really well done. There was a lot of great tension in there. You didn't know what's going on, and I thought that was really well done. But unfortunately, they then repeated that whole style of shooting again in the safe house where Jennifer was hiding. And that I just found, after the first time, I just wasn't really interested in that style of shooting anymore. So, and then we got, did you want to say anything about that, or? No? Okay.
No.
And then we got, as you said, we got some stuff interleaved through it that was setting up the finale of the season. Jennifer finds this book, apparently that was left by her birth parents, and she's the only one that can see like the symbol, which is the symbol of the guard on the cover, and it shows 4 people, various points of the compass, and there's an inscription saying that there's a doorway at the heart of Haven. And as soon as they said that, I don't know about you, Hans, but right off the bat, I knew it was the lighthouse. Did you?
Yeah, I had my that it would be, because the lighthouse has been there forever, and it's in the intro, and it's the definition of Haven almost. So it wasn't a big surprise that it was there.
Yeah, and I did like the one sequence there where the one guy had the box that detected the Rougarou, and he just said, "It's a box that detects monsters," and I thought that was kind of funny. So, because The Edge tried to tell us explain it scientifically, and then he says, I don't know what it does. I thought that was kind of funny. And it was interesting that Jennifer gave off the opposite reading of what the Rougarou was. So that was okay. And the other part that was, and understandable because it's a serialized show to a certain degree, but the two Dark Side Seekers were just too nice at the end of the show, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, we've got all this great footage, but no, we're not going to tell anybody about it. It's kind of like, okay, that's convenient. So
yeah, that was the main reason they were there. So and really ruthless about getting their footage in the beginning. So I didn't buy that really.
But yeah, a fun episode, and it was set up the finale, so I can't really complain about it too much. In retrospect, looking back at it now, I think they should have done more with Outre and her being Mara, and we'll talk about that as we get into the next two episodes, which close off season 4, When the Bow Breaks and Lighthouse. And I've come to call season 4 the Grapes of Wrath because of that box with the grapes or whatever they are. I don't know what they are, but they're like.
I saw them as small stones, maybe coal. Yeah. So I saw them more like grapes, actually.
Yeah, grapes, yes, because they were purple, right? And she could break them on her hands or whatnot and rub them all over the place. So this episode sets up very tough choices for several of the characters. Duke, Outre, there's a father with a baby that when it cries, somebody dies. And we find out that the coroner who I talked about in our last Haven review, Jane Eastwood, I don't know what happened to the other coroner, but anyhow, she's the grandmother of this father and this baby that has this curse. So Williams tells Outre that in order to break the curse, she has to create another curse. And this sets up a decision that Duke has to make, and we find out why his curse was taken away now in this episode, because he's going to get it back, or he's faced with the choice of getting it back to stop this terrible curse with this poor baby. So there was a lot of setup in this episode, and I think overall I thought it was pretty good. But again, I'm not really feeling the Outre Mara storyline, and nothing in this episode helped me to relate to that anymore. How about you?
No, I agree about the baby crying. I think that's probably the cruelest curse that we have ever seen in Haven, because I mean, how do you tell a baby it can't cry because someone will die? So I mean, it's an impossible curse to break, and to break it, Outre would have to give Duke back his trouble, and he would have to kill the father and break the curse for the family. So I mean, Outre would have to give someone a curse, which he definitely doesn't want to do. Duke would have to kill someone, which he definitely doesn't want to do. So I mean, it's an impossible curse, really. And I believe that William did all this just to get Outre to give someone a curse, because he hopes that when she will remember who she was and that she actually liked giving people curses, I think. So, and to some extent he succeeds because she feels something when she give Duke his curse back.
Yes, as well as to the grandfather.
Yeah.
I think he lost his voice, right? Or something like that. Yeah, and that actor was a well-known actor. If you watch the Battlestar Galactica reboot, he played Colonel Ty on that series, and he was fantastic in the series. Unfortunately, in this episode, he doesn't really get to do a lot, but it was nice to see him again still. So, and in this episode, they kind of touch on Outre remembering about Mara, but again, it's not enough to make me get emotionally engaged with her problem, and that becomes a bigger issue when we get into the next episode, which is entitled Appropriate Love, Lighthouse. So why don't you talk about what you thought of this episode?
Yeah, here everything comes to an end, and they find this door, and they decide they have to push William through it to get rid of him, basically. And they arrive there, and I think they very easily pushes him through the hole in the ground. I mean, he has been punishing them and torturing them for episode after episode, and all they have to do is giving him a little push, and he's gone. So I was very surprised to see how easy he would go. I thought it would be more of a challenge, and maybe even some of the bigger characters would have to give his or her life to make it happen. So I was a bit disappointed that they could get rid of him so easy. Then we have Dave, who I basically dislike more than ever now.
And Vince.
He's some kind of...
And Vince, too.
Yeah, Vince, though. But Dave is the most, I think, because he keeps saying all episode that he doesn't want to go back to the door because he's been there before. And then when they arrive, he jumps in. And then he changes his mind, so they have to pull him up. And I say, just let him drop.
Well, to be fair though,
be rid of him.
There's some sort of compulsion for him. He doesn't want to go through the door, but he can't help himself, right?
Yeah, but he's a whiner, I think. I don't want him anymore.
Yeah. The biggest problem I had with this episode is the most emotional moment came at the beginning when the father sacrificed himself so that the baby's curse would be lifted. And again, Jane Eastwood as the coroner, she really sold the pain of that scene. And they really said, I did like the way they staged that. Father says, I'm going to get a blanket, and he leaves, and then you hear the shot, and then Duke comes back with a blanket, and then we realize that the father's dead at this point. And then the grief that the grandmother expresses was a really powerful scene. And that was the emotional highlight of the episode, which didn't involve any of the main characters, really, which is not a good way to end the season, in my opinion.
No.
So
no. Maybe Duke a little, but
yeah, a little for Duke.
I agree with you.
And then the last 15 minutes when they get everybody into the lighthouse, it just felt like they were throwing everything but the kitchen sink through that portal. Like
yeah.
Dave's been through the portal before and gotten back. We don't know how he went into the portal. We don't know how he got back. We don't know, except through some offhand reference, why Jennifer is able to open this portal. Like, where did she get this power from? Nathan has had a wasted season. I think his best scene was at the beginning of the season. I know you really like that scene.
Yeah. Where he gets punched in the face for money because he doesn't feel it. Yeah. I love it. That's his moment in this season.
Yeah, that's not good either when your best moment's at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, I didn't feel anything about Audrey's struggle with trying not to be or discovering what Mara is about. If they could have shown us this Mara person, everything that we know about her, we've been told. We weren't really shown anything of the bad things that she had done. I would have liked to have seen like a flashback episode that did that so that we could see why it's important for Audrey to struggle against this. Instead, we're just being told through William, and we have to assume that William's telling the truth or a large portion of the truth, and maybe he must be hiding something, because if this really sets up like the end game for the series. If he's really telling her the truth, Audrey the truth, then once they resolve this problem, then to my mind that resolves the troubles of Haven too.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if she would have remembered her life as Mara and found that more interesting and destroyed all of Haven with William and then show's over.
You just love apocalyptic stories.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well, I think the ending of this one was too lame. I think they pushes William through and she becomes Mara and wants someone to come with her to the hole and bring him back.
Right.
Just like that, basically.
Yeah, and Duke inherited all the troubles that all his ancestors have removed from Haven. So, like you said, well, how can the guy stay alive at all? Yeah. And apparently Jennifer is dead. Dave's been shot because the Edge stood behind him so that the bullet went through him. That was actually kind of a cool moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just to end the season on this cliffhanger, and they didn't really answer any of the questions that they started at the beginning of the season. All the other seasons they've answered questions and come up with new ones. Here we're still trying to get answers to the same questions that we started the season with. So I'm not a big fan of that as either.
No.
And my biggest worry is because I got burnt with these guys before, and because you mentioned about Grand Central Station, these guys were also behind Dead Zone. And that show had 4 terrific seasons, and then it limped to the 5th, and it never resolved anything. So it dampens my enthusiasm for that series, which I was really into big time when it was airing. So I don't know what your experience is with Dead Zone, but I really liked that show.
Yeah, I did as well, and I think they managed very good to bring the feeling of the Stephen King book into that story and actually come up with new things for each episode, and it didn't really get boring. They managed to keep it fresh. Yeah. But then, as you said, that last season, it took a while before they did that. last seasons. And then when they returned, some of the actors had gone, some were new, the story had changed, and something like the X-Files or something like that. And it was a disaster, I think. So I wish that they didn't do the last season and left us hanging instead of getting this. It wasn't good at all. And since Haven hasn't been renewed yet, and there's been a while since it ended, so I'm thinking that maybe something similar will happen here, or maybe we won't get a 5th season at all.
Yeah, I feel like they're holding us ransom, the audience. Ransom here, and I don't think that's fair. They should close off storyline. I don't care if they set up another one. That's fine, but you got to close off the one that you started the season with, and I don't think they did that here. And I know another series that I really like, Farscape, did the same thing. They handed down a terrible cliffhanger, and the show was not renewed, and in fact it was canceled. But the fans, there was enough fans that complained that they finally got a TV movie to close off all the plot lines, and Haven might be lucky to get that here, but I don't think it has the same amount of fans nor near the passion that fan base had. So I would not be surprised if we're left with this series that never has an ending. And I have to be honest that I wouldn't be upset because I wasn't really emotionally involved in what was going on the way the season ended, which is sad because it started out with a lot of promise, but they just never got us into Audrey's head enough to relate to her problem. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but
what I would miss if we don't get a 5th season, that is, I would really like to see how they plan to solve this mess that they have put themselves in a believable way, because I have a hard time, and I have to agree, I had some hard time seeing how they would do that after season 3 as well, which they handled good, I think, after all. But it would be interesting to see, even if we don't get a 5th season. I would love to hear them talk about what they had planned if there was a 5th season. I would love for everybody to jump in the hole and let the 5th season play out in whatever world they are living in now. I think that would be interesting. I don't think that would happen, but it would be interesting. Maybe a mirror world to Haven where, I don't know, everybody lives in peace and have no troubles. And
well, we saw that episode this season already. So. Yeah. So that's the problem. They've switched the characters around so much that any new twist on that is just going to be like, okay, this is just another thing that's going to be set up, and then it's all going to be reset back to the way it was. So I don't really think that'll fly anymore. Personally, I think the best scenario would be like a 2-hour movie that closes everything off.
Yeah. How would you like them to close it off?
Well, I think they'd have to resolve Audrey's issue of if she really wants to be Mara or not. They have to explain where William and her came from.
Yeah.
I mean, William could be playing an endgame on her. She might still be like a normal person that he's just manipulated into believing that she's something more than she is. She might find out that she's not an alien or whatever the William and those guys are. And I think that they have to do something major with Nathan because his character just really got lost this season. And his whole trouble about not being able to feel just has become like a footnote in the series right now. I think that should still be a driving thing for him. And
he could be an alien punch bag.
I mean, the guy that's got the most interesting story this year right now is Dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with him. So I don't know how they could wrap it up. They just have to chart a course and stick to it.
Yeah, we have to wait and see if we get 5th season or an ending movie or if we're left hanging.
I think it'll all depend. I think my read on it right now is that Haven is in the wings. The Sci-Fi Network is looking at other shows, and if those shows all do well or take off, then the Haven's dead. But if one of those shows stumbles out of the gate right away, then they might pull things together for Haven.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to say, and it's disappointing. And I've been burnt once by the Dead Zone, and I don't want to be burnt again by Haven. But I have to be honest, as I just said a little bit ago, I won't be as upset because I'm not really as engaged with these characters as I was with the other show.
No.
So, folks, what do you think? Let us hear your feedback.
Yeah, and theories on what happened.
And are we just being too hard on these shows? I don't know. Under the Dome, Haven.
We're just telling the truth.
We're telling our truth. Your opinion is totally yours, and we're not saying we're right. This is just how we're feeling about where Haven's gone this season after a promising start and after such a strong third season.
And send in your comments on what you think should happen if there is a fifth season. Should it be in Alien Land or should they be back in Haven?
Alrighty, so that's our talk about Haven.
There has been a contest running on Lilja's Library where I asked you to send in Stephen King themed Christmas cards that you took yourself during the Christmas. And people have. And I have selected my 5 favorites. And you can head over to the site and vote for your favorite all through to January 31st. And by then I will announce the winner of the photo contest. And the winner who has taken the winning photograph will get a copy of Subterranean Press gift edition of The Shining. And those of you who are voting won't be going home empty-handed, at least one of you won't. I will draw a winner who will get a hardcover of my book, Lilja's Library, the Stephen King book. And if you so desire, I will sign it for you as well and send it off to you. So head over to the site and vote.
There you go. So that concludes our episode 27, our season 4 finale review of Haven. A couple of housekeeping items before we sign off. First off, it's a new year, and with that, the costs of running the podcast continue, and we do have a PayPal button at the bottom. That would be awesome if you could hit that PayPal button and give us a donation. It helps us keep the new episodes going as well as keeping the older episodes up there for your listening enjoyment. Another thing that just struck my mind is if you've read the latest short story by Summer Thunder by Stephen King, that's in the Turn Down the Lights collection. I know Hans has read it, but
Yep.
Why don't you please send in your non-spoilery comments about if you like the story or not and why. That would be awesome to hear. I personally haven't read the story yet, but I'd love to hear some feedback from other people about it. So please use that talkback button.
Yeah, it's a great story, I can tell you that much.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Hans.
Yep.
Teasing us all. There you go.
Yep.
Our final item for our next podcast, we're going to be pulling out somewhat of a rarity. We're going to be reviewing the TV series called Golden Years that Stephen King wrote especially for TV. It only lasted half a season, 6 or 7 episodes that was later on repackaged as a movie. So if you have copies of that, you probably have to get them on videotape or something like that. The original episodes don't exist on DVD as far as we know.
No.
But the movie does.
Yeah, exactly. The 3-hour movie does. Yeah.
Does. So we're going to be pulling that chestnut out of the fire, and that'll sometimes near the end of January. So look forward to that. And of course, we'll also have the latest Stephen King news. And if you guys send us in any comments or feedback, we'll include those as well. So until then, stay safe.
But stay scared.